Hey, there's your Wisconsin wine guy, and welcome back to another wine review during this holiday season, the last quarter of the year. We do lots of our partying, lots of our gathering with family and friends, and we're toasting wine. We're making cocktails. Some of us are drinking beer, and we cannot forget about those NA mock cocktails and or wines and beers, right? So there's something for everyone now during this holiday season, instead of just having to drink soda. If you wanted to be a part of the cocktail or wine or beer drinking group during your holiday time. So let's get into it. For those who are new, I go through and make a selection of wines wherever you shop for wine, a liquor store, a grocery store, or some wine shops. I select these wines to give you my opinion, what I think about these wines, utilizing the simple system of thumbs ratings. Thumbs up said, you know what, it's a very solid wine, good value, can't go wrong with it, fantastic for everyday drinking. 3/4 says, you know what, if I'm working on a budget, or if I show up at a party and I see that wine, I would drink that wine, and I definitely would share it with my friends. Halfway, ooh, something about that wine just did not work for me, but doesn't make it a bad wine. It just didn't work for my palate. But I'll tell you why it didn't work for my palate, but I want you to taste it. In fact, I encourage you to taste it to let me and the rest of us know what you thought about it. Thumbs down. Always an easy one, right? And every now and then there's the infamous double thumbs up. Double thumbs up is a wine that is exceptional. One that I would take a few of those bottles. If I like that much, I'll buy a few bottles, lay them down. God spares my life, that I can taste those wines every 10 years. I think at the age I am now, I probably only buy 3 wines, 3 bottles, and go every 10 years. Depending how old they are. If they're already an older bottle, I'll buy 2 of them and go, or maybe still 3 and go every 5 years. So, now, let's get into what we're doing today. Today we're going to be doing Sandeman. You see, I got a nice little setup here, right? But the feature today is going to be the Sandeman 10-year-old tawny port. Now, who doesn't know Sandeman wines? And who doesn't understand port? Or who doesn't know what port is? Well, you know what? I was surprised that a lot of people still are not familiar with port wines, or they had a port wine once upon a time and it just turned them away from it. Well, let me tell you, and let me be the first to tell you, the second, the third, and probably the fourth to tell you that you are missing out on a fantastic wine that goes through this fantastic process of being aged in different barrels, you know, and also oxidized but capturing flavor over time. That's the short version. I'll put a link where you can learn more about Sandeman and their wine making, or say port drinking process. Now, port wines, what distinguishes them from wine, they all starts off as a wine. These are made with indigenous local grapes out of Portugal. But what makes it different is that it is fortified. Fortified to stop the fermentation, stop eating up the sugar, all right, and producing that level of sweetness where you want it to stop, and then going through its process of aging. Sandeman has been around for 2 centuries, a little over 2 centuries. That's a lot of port being made for over 2 centuries. We're talking about 100 years, right? That's a lot of port. So they are in the business, and one of the oldest port houses in Portugal. So they understand, they know port. Right? Right. So they do anywhere from their rubies to white port to 40-year-old port. And I think they probably have a century, a 100-year-old port as well, which is rare to find. But today we're going to be doing the 10-year-old tawny port. Tawny. Why is it called tawny port? It has a lot to do with its color. You know, when ports are young, the ruby port, you know, hint, it gives you a little clue. Ruby port, meaning the name. Ooh, I can smell that wine. Ruby meaning the name. Now, ports would typically come in at 20%. 20% is the sweet spot on ports when they talk about the alcohol content. 20%. All right? And this tawny port, because it's aging, as it ages, a little bit oxidation. So if you can get that here, you can pick up a little bit. As you look at this rim here, pick a little bit of that. You get this kind of like amber tawny color in the port wine. On the nose, you pick up like caramel, like dark caramel notes, spice notes. But you know what's unique, what I find unique about these Sandeman wines is that even though you have that tawny color, you still get a little bit of that, you know, ruby-esque color to it. All right, so it still has that 10 years, still rather young. You know, again, they go like 20, 30, 40, maybe 100, but you still get some of that nuance, ripeness, fruitness that exists here, blended, or maybe, I should say blended, with that age-worthy time made or time spent in making the port. Wow, that just smells good. Ah, it has nice spice notes to it as well. Now, when people, most of the time people think about port, they think about, oh my God, I gotta have a cigar. That's the old school. Or I gotta have some blue cheese, or I gotta have some dessert. To me, that's old school as well. You probably heard me say this before, maybe not, but when I had sold port in my store, in order to introduce it to my customers, in fact, I introduced it to the wine club first. I did a all port tasting. At that time, Portuguese wines were just entering my market. Okay, so we had two Portuguese wines there, but I introduced them to ports, and I think white port was making an entry into my market as well. Did a white port cocktail to start off. It was like based on a mojito. Then we went from the ruby port up to 100 euro port. I'm not going to tell you the name because this video isn't about them. I'll do a video on that brand later. But it was a way to give people understanding what port was. In fact, I did not tell my club members what the tasting was going to be based on. You just had to show up, all right? And we didn't have no dessert, no sweets, no cigars, of course, but no sweets, no cheeses. But what we did have, I brought the cheeses out later. But during the tasting, we had a Jamaican, my Jamaican chef friends had a Jamaican station of different Jamaican dishes. I created a bunch of different Middle Eastern flavored dishes. And then we had Mexican dishes, okay? All flavorful foods. And I also took the port and made a chili with it and used the port as part of the liquid base, okay? So that gave people a completely different perspective of port wines. Instead of thinking in the narrow, we broaden the horizons. All right. In addition to that, you know, with the white port, most people never had a white port. In fact, I'd never even had a white port before until then. But it was fantastic as a cocktail, and it's still a favorite cocktail of mine to make now with white ports. So now, getting to the port itself, it was amazing. People were amazed at how different the ports were, being able to taste them side by side from ruby up to 100 years old. They just had to taste them side by side and decide where their palate falls and what type of ports they like. If you ever get a chance to have such an experience like that, I encourage you, jump on it, hands down, pay the money, go do it. And hopefully they have a savory tasting with ports as opposed to a sweet and cheese tasting. So that's about ports for me. Step outside your box. Let's do something fantastic with it. Now back to Sandeman's port. Again, that nose is phenomenal. You even pick up a little bit of like caramelized orange peel or candied orange peel on this one too. Wow. Let's give it a taste. Now when I'm tasting port, wow, mouth-watering acidity. Acidity still plays. You don't want something that's just syrupy and that's it. You want character. You want structure. You want liveliness to the port as well. Wow, my mouth is watering. So upon tasting that, it's like, wow, just an explosion of berries, you know, of caramelized sugar, you know, even brown sugar. Or creme brulee, you know, when you do the burnt sugar, I mean, it's just all right there. You know, orange spices, you know, like a mulled wine spices. You get all that right here in one glass, right? So that initial taste of the acidity was very nice. I mean, I like the balance of it. Even though it's 20% alcohol, you don't get the alcohol burn to it. Very nice balance. Fruit is still there. I mean, it's 10 years old. To me, that's still rather young compared to some of the older ones. There's still a presence of fruit here, in addition to its age stamp or age taste. Okay, so fantastic on this. Now, I have here to the side two different spirits here. I have the Knob Creek Rye and I have the Aviation Gin. I'm going to put together a little cocktail. Here's something else you could do. I mean, stepping outside the box again and creating cocktails with the port wines. So I'm going to do this here is going to be gin. I don't have any Campari or any of my Aperol, But I'm just going to do, but you could add that to this. Use blackberries, a little bit of orange, and a little bit of gin. So this is going to be like a ½ ounce of gin. Okay? And then I'm going to add to that one, there's ice inside there too. I'm going to add to that one an ounce of the port. Okay? So that's that one. Get me a rinse out of here. Now, to this one, cup here, with my square cube in, I'm going to add, also there's a slice of orange and a dried, I should say a sweet cherry, okay? To this we're going to add a ½ ounce. Make sure you get that cherry. Well, let's make it an ounce, right? Let's just go for it. Let's make it an ounce. It's the holiday season, and I'm going to party with you guys today. So ½ ounce of that, of the Knob Creek, and then to that we're going to add 2 ounces of the port, okay? Or maybe an ounce and a half. All right, so 2 ounces of the port. Now here's what I was going for here with that, was to give it a little stir. The goal here is to take advantage of the flavors from the aged rye whiskey in addition to the flavors of the aged tawny port. Here, we're going for brightness. You know, you can add some spritz to this as well with the gin. You know, it's almost like a Negroni, right? But a port-style Negroni, getting rid of the vermouth. So we're going to taste this one first. Ah, wow, that's very refreshing. Now imagine if you added the Campari or the Perrier to it, or even put a little spritz in there. How fantastic that would be. Very refreshing, very nice. Wow, that's nice. Now here, we're going for that traditional dark cocktail style of drinking. Again, that's the Knob Creek Rye. I just like rye. You can use any bourbon you like, but I like the rye. And we have the Tawny Port. The combination of these two aged wine, aged spirit is just fantastic. And again, being nicely chilled, we got our cherry, our orange. I make sure I pour the port and the rye whiskey over the top just to soak up some of that flavor with the orange and cherry. Both of these are fantastic. Choose one you like. It's your Wisconsin Wine Guy saying as always that your palate be the guide with selecting your port. And I'm going to sit here and enjoy more of my cocktails. And I'll see you in the next review. Oh yeah, we got to give it a rating, huh? Double thumbs up here. Very versatile. Price about $33 to $35 or $32 to $35 depending when you're shopping. So double thumbs up here with this one. A versatile port, 10 years old. I think it's a good place to start. It gets better at 30, 40, 50, but a good place to start with your ports. And I'll see you next time. Ciao!